How do I get bigger and stronger? I train 5 times a week for the past 4 to 5 years. Do you have any suggestions for muscular growth? I can't do this anymore.
Hello everyone. My name is Ed Davis and I am a graduate assistant in the Exercise Science and Health Promotion Department at Florida Atlantic University. Today we will be discussing how to get bigger and stronger, otherwise known as muscular hypertrophy. We will look at the current and most applicable research in this area, and the topics discussed will go from muscular hypertrophy and a light overview of how it occurs, to resistance training and its variables that can be modified to achieve muscular hypertrophy. Finally, we will close out with an introduction of the RPE-RIR scale, velocity, and recommendations for future research in the field, and suggestions for those individuals interested in training for optimizing muscle growth. In a study by Damas et al. In 2018, muscle hypertrophy is defined as an increase in contractile unit content, which leads to an increase in cross-sectional muscle area. Meaning, the size of the muscle and the thickness of the muscle are going to increase gradually over time. In that same study by Damas and colleagues, growth in muscle fiber cross-section area has also been credited to a positive net protein balance within the protein turnover ratio, simplified as an increase in muscle protein synthesis versus muscle protein breakdown. As stated in that same study by Damas et al. In 2018, increases in muscle protein synthesis promote muscle hypertrophy, while conversely, if muscle protein breakdown exceeds muscle protein synthesis, atrophy will occur. McGlory et al. In 2016 hypothesized that the initial increases in muscle protein synthesis were to be targeted at recovery and remodeling of the damaged fibers, and then focused on muscular hypertrophy post-resistance training session. On a similar note, Schoenfeld et al. In 2010 noted that hypertrophy has also been associated with satellite cell content. The satellite cell is simply the muscle stem cell, which is primarily used to donate nuclei to the muscle fibers, allowing enhanced synthesis of new contractile proteins and promoting repair and recovery of the muscle once activated. Therefore, muscular hypertrophy is prominently associated with resistance training by attaining the optimal stimulus necessary to see adaptations, according to Helms et al. In 2016. Current literature has proven key predictors of muscular hypertrophy in resistance training to be training volume and intensity. The following definitions that I will provide of volume and intensity were derived from Campbell et al. In his 2017 article. Volume of training can be defined as the total amount of work performed in a program, or even more concisely, during a specific movement, the repetitions multiplied by the sets multiplied by the total load lifted. The intensity, on the other hand, can be defined as percentage of a single repetition max, or of the multiple repetition max, or even the load being lifted during that session. When it comes to training, most people will use percentage of 1 rep max, or they will train in their repetition max zone. But within most recent literature, it has been shown that there are daily fluctuations in 1 rep max performance, as shown by Zordos et al. In 2015. These fluctuations may cause an inconsistency in the training stimulus obtained each day and may lead to suboptimal stimulation. My recommendation would be to incorporate the RPE-RIR scale created by Zordos et al. In 2016 in conjunction with percent 1 rep max training, and eventually lead to potentially training within RPE ranges after familiarization of the scaling has occurred as initially suggested by Helms et al. In 2018. As movement velocity is correlated with RPE and has an inverse relationship with intensity, also found in a different study by Helms et al. In 2016, velocity of movement can be used as a direct measure of efficiency in movement and even as an accuracy check on reported ratings of RPE when compared with prior measurements taken. On top of being a reliable objective measure giving accurate readings, the open barbell system, which is a commonly used tool for measuring velocity, can be obtained for a relatively cheap price, balancing out the practicality standpoint of training for the average individual in comparison with the clinical usage of velocity-based training for a research setting. As found in a study by Klemp et al. In 2016 with equated volume and two separate groups lifting in what is commonly termed as a hypertrophy repetition range of about 8 to 12 and a strength repetition range of about 4 to 6, it was shown that there are similar hypertrophy and strength adaptations, thus emphasizing the idea that muscular hypertrophy is volume dependent and not repetition range dependent. In agreement with one of the suggestions posted by Schoenfeld et al. In 2014 and Klemp et al. In 2016, there really needs to be a lot more research done on trained individuals, as there is a lot of research looking at recreationally trained or untrained individuals. In the past few years, there have been a lot of papers come out on the topic of trained individuals, but there still needs to be more. Being that volume is a key predictor of muscular hypertrophy, my final recommendations are to continue training and to start tracking how much volume is performed during each session and per week, while simultaneously begin using the RPE-RIR scale to practice gauging each set performed per workout until you are relatively comfortable with using that scale. This scale is not restricted to just squat, bench, and deadlift, as many people will come to think, as you can also take a session RPE after each completed session, as recommended by Helms et al. In 2016. In that same article by Helms et al. In 2016, it is stated that the RIR should be used for strength, hypertrophy, muscular endurance, or heavy power training. So there's a lot of variety of use for this scale. It's not just limited to one thing or another. So using this scale will only prove beneficial to those attempting to elicit adaptations of muscular hypertrophy, with the current research showing hypertrophy is not dependent upon repetition ranges. It can simply be said that if you get in the gym and lift some weights while keeping track of what you lift week to week, then you can easily increase muscle mass. You just have to have the patience and bear in mind to train smarter and not harder.